Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.
Clint Smith leads us on an unforgettable tour of monuments and landmarks that offer a story of how slavery has been central in shaping our nation's history, memory, and financial success. We will tour Monticello, the Whitney Plantation, the Angola Prison, and Manhattan, and other areas to see how slavery sustained these landmarks. We'll see just how slavery permitted America and other countries to become economic powerhouses in the book, How the Word is Passed. Let's meet my guest, Alfred Guillaume. Welcome, Alfred.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here once
to be
again.
here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, this is a powerful book. I mean, it really is. Tell me why you chose it.
It is a powerful book, but it's also a sorrowful book, because it traces the past, an inglorious past,
Inglorious
a
past,
heinous
yes.
past that America refuses to embrace fully. Unless we embrace it, we can't move forward, particularly in racial healing and understanding. I read this book several years ago, before these recent attempts to alter history and to ban books,
Yes.
and I felt that at this time it is probably a good time for us to discuss this book, one man's personal journey through the horrors of slavery, visiting all the Confederate sites, a black man,
Yes.
and speaking with people who honor that Confederate past, trying to understand why, what motivates them, and correcting some of the history that they have understanding of. And his sharing of his story and how painful that story was to him growing up in New Orleans. I too grew up in New Orleans. I grew up seeing all those Confederate statues, all the streets named after Confederate generals. And you know, at some point you don't even think about it. As a child, you didn't think about it. But as an adult, becoming much more aware of what is happening in this country,
Yes.
to ignore that slavery was a powerhouse of economic development on the bodies of black men, women, and children.
Absolutely. And you know, it really does hit you when you realize this country wouldn't be what it is today without the work, the effort of black women, men, children. For 200 years, we would not be the country we are today. And we should say, thank you, we're sorry, and we want to do something about it, but everybody's afraid to say it.
And we need to move on, honor that past in the ways not to honor it in glory, but to honor it in memory.
Yes, in memory. And just to say, yes, it happened. It happened. And I am so glad you suggested it. It is one of the best books I've ever read. And we're going to enjoy cooking some foods of the period. Let's talk about what we're making today.
Well, today we're making crab cakes with remoulade sauce. And then we're going to have bananas Foster later.
Yes, and a sip of white wine.
Oh, of
Which
course.
is cooling in the freezer. I hope it's not freezing.
No,
right?
it's not
Right.
freezing,
It's not
no.
freezing. But I do recommend this book highly. And I was at 2 book clubs this week, and they said, oh yes, we've heard about this book. And it is amazing what you finally realize, that this country wouldn't be what it is without all the burdens of the slaves.
And what is remarkable about the book is that there's a lot of sadness in it, a lot of pain, but it's written with a beautiful lyric voice.
Yes.
The language and the metaphors are just extraordinary. This is a very fine book, and he brings you in the moment, and that is so critical.
It is. I almost feel like I went through Monticello with him. They have 2 tours at Monticello. One is for people that just want to know about the furniture and you know, and the history, and other people want to know more. Now that they know or have heard of Sally Hemings,
Yes.
who they will not even say that she was the mistress of Thomas Jefferson. I mean, they've changed. I've been there twice, and when I was there the first time, there was no mention of Sally Hemings.
Right.
But the second time I went, they finally said, okay, we'll let all of her descendants be buried with the Jeffersons in the same cemetery there at Monticello. And I was very moved both times. And so we've gone on the tours of the locations that speak truth to power and wisdom and history. And so I want to get started
Let's go.
before I burn my
All right.
my butter here with my brown sugar, and I have some cinnamon in here. Oh, I haven't put it in yet. Yes, I have. See, it's been a while. And we'll let that cook a little bit. Tell us what you're going to do.
All right, I'm going to make the crab cakes. All the ingredients I have here. I've done the remoulade sauce ahead of time. It is simply mayo, mustard, ketchup, and horseradish, with spiced with a little bit of cayenne pepper, just to make it a little flavorful, and onions. And parsley, and that's what's in.
So it has
in
some
this,
heat, doesn't
it?
it?
It has a little bit of heat.
A little bit of
You
heat.
see, as I said before in one of my shows, Creole cooking is a blend of spices. So the heat will not attack you, but you can feel it warming your body.
Yes, that's what we want.
Yes.
And I love, once you learn to love spices, most food is bland. I have found out. I mean, I learned about spicy food in Thailand. And then I met an Indian woman who cooked with a lot of spices. And she said in America, she takes her hot pepper sauce with her whenever she goes to a restaurant or to someone's home. So you're going to start chopping, aren't you?
Start chopping. I'm gonna get the crab meat. I got about a pound of crab meat in here. You can use the white or the dark, but I like the white. The dark it can be a little tastier sometimes, but overpowering. So the white meat, it will be very good. I'm gonna mix it up and blend it here, and then I'm gonna add the onions. I'm gonna cut up some onion.
While you're cutting up there, I just want to mention that originally when I met Alfred, I said I'd like to learn about the literature of Louisiana. So we've been doing a different book from Louisiana throughout the time on Dinner and a Book.
That's correct. That's correct. But this is still somewhat in that vein, because this author is also from Louisiana, from
Yes.
New Orleans.
He is. He is.
We try to stick to a Louisiana theme.
And I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I mean, the books are so interesting, and they depict the history, and time has moved on. Such colorful characters too. I do like that. And you're from
From New Orleans, right? I'm from
You
New
are
Orleans.
from New Orleans. So
Born and raised, as they say.
and you know the music, you know the food, and so as I say, I'm really glad that you suggested this book, and I'm being so careful not to burn my brown sugar. I'm going to turn it up a little, but
So I'm going to chop some onions. I need about 2 tablespoons of onions that I'm going to put in this dish. I have to cut it finely because you want the onions to blend in with the dish.
You do it beautifully. I still can't get onions chopped very well with that method. I don't know
Well, it's the
what
best
it
way
is.
to do it, I think.
What?
I learned this from watching Julia Childs do it.
Oh, she was something, wasn't she? Yes, indeed. So this dish is served at several restaurants in New Orleans. I think Brennan serves it, and there is a Palace Cafe and the Court of Two Sisters. And if I have any questions here about what I'm doing, I will ask you because I'm sure you've made it many times.
I've made it many times.
So I've got to be careful what I do here.
Well, you know.
I'll just say it's an Indiana twist.
Well, you can make it with a Indiana twist, is right.
That's it exactly. There's always a reason or an excuse. So we're going to go, the first thing we go to is Monticello, and we do hear the tour. There's some white people in the tour, and there's some African American people. And the thing is, you have our author who stays around after the tour, and he talks to some of these people, their reactions. And when they hear about Jefferson and Sally Hemings, one of them says, well, that really takes the shine off of Jefferson, doesn't it? And I think there's some people that still don't know the story. But to me, it's just amazing. He was such a brilliant man, and he wrote there was important documents.
Well, he was a man of his time.
Yes, exactly.
And at the time, the common thinking was that black people were not as intelligent and not fully human. And so that was a way they could justify the slavery.
And the church leaders said that too. They justified it by saying God said so. Oh gosh, I'm going to get in trouble. Well, but it's, I don't know why it would be so hard to say this was a mistake. I just. If
you don't educate a populace, then they are inferior.
Yes, that's right.
See,
people that aren't educated.
So that was a purposeful way to keep blacks enslaved, docile, and willing to accept
and you know the
conditions.
churches would have to say they were sorry too what they did.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that concerns me now about the teaching of African American history is that they want to ban books, but they also want to rewrite the story.
Yes. Oh, it didn't happen that way.
That blacks learned a skill while they were enslaved.
Can you imagine?
No, they
did.
They did.
A skill.
Sure, they learned the skill.
Yeah.
They were taught something, but that was a skill forced upon them.
Yes.
And they didn't have the freedom to choose what they want to do with their lives.
Well, we had such a moment of hope. We have a moment to sort of work our way into the next segment. How are you doing here with all of your
I'm doing just fine.
topics?
I'm putting all the things together. I put bell peppers, a couple tablespoons of bell peppers. I'm cutting some celery now. I have onion in there. And,
all right.
And then I'm going to add some garlic later. And then I'm going to mix it up with some eggs. And we're going to put them together in little patties.
Yep.
I need the oven put at 350.
All right, 350, and we are taking a little break right now. We're going to get some more of our ingredients ready. See, I turn my back on this, and away it goes.
Well, it looks good, though. A nice dark brown.
And we'll be right back. And our book is How the Word is Passed. Our author is Clint Smith. My guest is Alfred Guillaume. Yep. And we're coming into the last few minutes of Bananas Foster and
crab cakes with remoulade sauce.
All right. So I'm going to put some in here, and it might catch on fire again. Who knows? But we'll be ready.
And what I'm going to do is tell you how I made the crab cakes.
Before you do that, 1 second. I'm putting in some banana liqueur and a little more of the spiced rum, and then we'll put the bananas in here, cook it in here, and that will be it. Okay, take it away.
Okay. I've got a pound of white crawfish meat. I've put 2 tablespoons of mayo, mustard, Dijon mustard, bell peppers, onion, and a little bit of garlic. And I'm going to now add 3 eggs to it.
This is a big job here, this.
3 eggs. Now this dish was often eaten during Lent. My 2 grandmothers, my maternal and paternal grandmothers, would cook this on Good Friday or the Fridays during Lent.
Okay.
And
well, we certainly didn't do that.
you know, in New Orleans, during Lent, you couldn't eat meat. Well, that was okay with us because, you know, we love seafood down there. So it wasn't a big sacrifice to have seafood on the Fridays in Lent.
Now you're gonna make cakes now, and you're going
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna put that,
cook
yes.
them in here and then put
Right.
them in the oven.
Right.
So it
What I
looks
wanna do-
kind of moist. How are you going
Yeah,
to do
I'm
that?
going to show you in a minute.
Oh, in a minute.
I'm going to show you in a minute.
You have to put
I'm going to add some more some
Yeah.
breadcrumbs in there. Let's put some more breadcrumbs.
He just knows how to do it. Just put in a little.
And then
And how long are you going to cook those
I'm going to make them cook them till they're brown.
till they're brown?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add just a touch of cumin.
Oh, yes, give it a little kick. And while you're doing that, I'm going to mention, because you're going to talk about Whitney Plantation, but we
Sure.
go to New York, and we find out that it was the second largest slave market in the United States. New York, up
New
in
York,
the
of all
north.
places, right? And Savannah was the largest.
And they have little plaques up through the city, but there's never been much hoo-ha about any of this in New York. And we've mainly stayed in the South, but New York was a huge slave market. And there you go. That looks great. And the other one was the Angola prison, which nobody talked about the fact that it was built right on a plantation.
On a plantation,
And
that's
it was
correct.
the convicts went in there and they lived as if it was almost as if they were slaves again. And they
Well,
worked out
it was
in the
like
fields.
It was like a slave post.
And these men that are sent out to work in work details that are in prison, they earn about 9 cents an hour. And in any case, we do visit that plantation, or prison, I should say.
I'm going to clean my hands for a moment.
You should, indeed. And I'll give you some paper towel here. This is active. Here. And so, and then we go to Gorée Island off the coast of Senegal, and that's where a lot of the slaves were sent from Africa. And I was in Africa visiting some of the markets, the slave markets. But the Africans got together and said, you know, they sold their own people
Right.
to the Americans and the Belgians and the French and the English, but they apologized to all of the people in the tribes that were sent to the New World. And so if they can do it, why can't we do it? And tell me more about Whitney Plantation.
Well, Whitney Plantation is a new plantation that tells the story of slavery through the eyes of children. And I visited there and I cried
You did.
in that spot because there's a wall of all the names of all the slaves that were there and where they came from. And when you enter the plantation, there's this church, and there's these clay statues of kids dressed in their raggedy clothes and so forth. And you know, there's nothing special about the big house there. It's just a simple house. But as you listen to the story, and think about the plantation, all the tour guides, most of them are black.
Yes.
White tour guides are there as well. But to make the story much more authentic, the narrative is told by black people. And what's remarkable about that
Which
story
makes
is,
sense.
you know, as you sit there and look out at the plantation, there are this barren field, hot, muggy, and you think how hard they worked in that field. And then after the end of the day, the huts are there. I
Yes.
call them huts, but these houses where the slaves lived. It's just wood, basically, and their beds were just straw.
Yeah.
And they're doesn't protect much from the elements because, well, how can you protect from the elements when there are holes in the boards of the building? They're like outhouses open.
Yes, they're like outhouses, right. Well, I think I don't need to put that in because we used all of the banana liqueur, and I have also some rum in here.
That looks good so far, yes.
So far, anything can happen though, right?
Anything can happen with that. That is perfect, what you have. Just the right coloring.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So how are you doing there?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing just fine. One interesting about this book is he visits Branford Cemetery in Petersburg, Virginia. And he comes at a time when there's a ceremony honoring the Confederate soldiers.
Yes.
And he speaks with several of the people there as what does the Confederacy mean to them and why they're there. See, it is nice and brown like that. See, look at that.
Looks wonderful.
Yeah. Anyway, so what he learns from the people he encounters is that they believe a story that is fictitious.
Oh yeah,
One
about
that is created solely
for the
to
Confederate.
perpetuate the glory of the Confederacy. And one gentleman he speaks to says, look, my great-grandfathers fought in this war, and my great-father fought in this war, and so it's a heritage that I'm proud of, because these were patriots.
Yeah.
As I see it, how could they be patriots? They were traitors to the country.
Well, and people have to look at it that way. I think it's real. It's like we're living in two realities here. I'm going to let this cook a little longer.
And
We
see,
have
and
about
there
a
you go.
minute.
And there you go, you see it right there.
Isn't
It's-
that beautiful?
Yeah. It's getting
Can you
to be-
see it?
Yeah.
Yes. Look at this. I'll
It's
get
nice
this
and
out of
brown,
the
and I'm
way.
going to let this cook a little bit more.
And you're going to put that
And
in
I'll
the
put that
oven, right?
That's right, that's correct.
For how long?
For about 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, I
all
wanted
right.
to get a little bit
We have about a minute to
compact,
go.
but
This
anyway,
is perfect timing.
this is a great dish.
The
You should
remoulade
try it.
sauce is done.
Yes.
This is ready to go in the oven. My bananas Foster just needs ice cream and a little bit of runny whipping cream. We don't worry about that.
I'm putting the bacon
Okay.
sheet in a minute, and then we're all done.
Okay, so we'll get this in the oven, and you're going to put it on that tray there, right?
Bacon sheet, yes.
Okay, and we'll just take a short break. We'll be right back. And we're back, and we just have a few minutes to entice you to our,
Yes.
should we say New Orleans meal, or what
New
should we say?
Orleans meal, yes.
Yes, and now we're going to put some French vanilla ice cream on top, which is my favorite kind of vanilla ice cream. I hope that doesn't work against your plan here, Alfred.
To lose weight, huh?
Oh,
Yeah, you're not going to lose weight in this dish, that's for sure.
no, that's right. You don't have it very often in your life. So, in any case,
And
I
so what
wanna
I'm going to do is add the remoulade sauce
yes.
to the crab cakes.
Right. And in the meantime, we're going to say go down to New Orleans and enjoy some of this wonderful food. And that sauce will be just perfect, won't it?
Right.
And here's our dessert. And I can't remember what it's called. Bananas
dessert is
Foster.
Bananas Foster, right?
Foster.
How
I
could
was
you
thinking
forget that?
must be a composer. Well, I've enjoyed the food. I thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I suggest you read it. It is right here.
And the remarkable thing about the book is, in the Whitney Plantation, when I visited, I imagined myself as a child in the plantation, and then I began to cry
Oh, yes.
because of all the suffering of those young children in slavery.
Well, it certainly made a lot of people wealthy. I can't say another word for it. and there's nothing to excuse it. But in
Okay.
any case, I want you here anytime we have important subjects to discuss.
All right.
You-
African history,
Yes.
African American history is all part of the American
Cheers.
story.
Yes, we have quite a story. Thank you for joining us, and Alfred, thank you for
thank
suggesting
you.
the book and the food.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful. And happy travels.
Happy travels for me. I leave for France for 6 weeks tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 6 weeks. Oh, that's why we're having French vanilla ice cream. So in any case, remember, good food, good friends, good travels make for a very good life. We'll see you next time.
Amen. Yep.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.